Hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone. I haven't had a losing streak in a while. This is a new one. Took a while to get around to it, which is an accomplishment in itself. Let's silver lining this thing off the bat. Yes, they lost. Yes, they lost to a good team. Yes, it's 2 in 4 days. They're 7 and 4. So I think I've been prepping myself all week for that. I knew this was a big ask for this team, such a big ask. And through three quarters, I had hope and dreams because the defense somehow kept the Eagles to 6 points, and then it just went sideways. Totally sideways.
No, it went bad. I mean, it was both sides of the ball too. Like
Yeah.
Jaden couldn't get the ball to wide receivers, 10
No.
yards down the field. The defense you could tell was just worn down. You saw it all stacked up, by the end of that game last night.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Let's see where to start. Let's go with the big decision first. I think that's an important one. I'm not sure they would have won 13-12. Okay, let's start there because the defense was looking like they were kind of done for the evening, and the last 4 days seem to have caught up with them big time. That said, this is the first decision that Dan Quinn made, I think, all year that I totally didn't agree with. The score was 12-10. They got what appears to be second straight week bad spot on the John Bates thing, at least. But everything happened so fast, they ran up and ran a play anyway that we didn't have time to really review it. But then upon review, it looked like they got a bad spot. So it should have been 1st and 10. It wasn't. Doesn't excuse them that they couldn't get 5 inches on 3 plays. So second down, they get pushed backwards half yard. Third down, they get pushed backwards again. I know what they've done on 4th down all year. The only time they failed all year was the 4th and 9 a week ago. That might have been a bad spot there too. So I appreciate confidence. I appreciate how clutch they've been. I also know they were in a 12-10 game on the road and taking the lead in the 4th quarter, even if everything that still happened was Saquon beyond that. I still think would have been the right thing to do because they'd gone backwards 2 plays in a row. So this is the first time that I would say I disagree with the decision that was made last night. And it's easy to say that because it failed. But I mean, in reality, I think they should have kicked the ball there personally.
In the moment, I disagreed with it. And then by the end of the night, I was okay with it because we saw what happened to the defense. They didn't just fall apart. Like Saquon literally ended the game a couple of times, literally against them. And I'm with you. In the moment, I was kind of like, I think you take that lead, but then you kind of just
back.
But you look at both sides of the ball. I guess what I'm getting at here is damned if you do, damned if you don't. But he was trying to make a decision to try to make this team in a better position to win in the long run in that game, and it just didn't work out. I'm okay with it, is what I'm getting at. I don't love it, but I'm okay with it.
But I would also argue this, and again, like you don't know what's going to happen after, right? Their kicker had missed 2 field goals and an extra point. So the only reason why they'd be leading was because of that reason, which I think if Washington is leading, gives the Eagles a little more pause about kicking again. Just if it's any kind of marginal distance, anything beyond 40, I think they're thinking about it again differently than maybe they would in any other scenario, which is why I think you kick there. More than anything is why I think you kick there, because their kicker was unreliable for the night, like big time unreliable. And if they do get into field goal range, and if Washington does hold them from getting out of the end zone, it just gets dicey in that stadium, like real dicey for a moment. Like you'll feel the tension. So that's the main reason why. Well, 1, I would have taken the lead in the 4th quarter on the road. 2, because their kicker was so off, I think that it was the right thing to do. Now, if they get it, they get it. And then, fine. But it felt a little Dan Campbell last night is what it felt like. It felt a little Dan Campbell. I agree this was going the wrong way. And I agree that they probably needed to score a touchdown. But I didn't think at the time it was the right decision. And I still don't. It felt a little, we're just going to go for it because that's what we do, and kind of took the scenario out of play for a moment. There was 8 minutes left. This is a road game in Philadelphia. You can get the lead back. I would have taken it.
The one thing I would say, whether they're going to go for it or not, actually, too, would have been to take a timeout. I mean, I think that would have been
Sure.
I know they only had 2 left, I think, by that point. I think I would have done that too, because you also saw that play was a little rushed. Like Jaden bobbled the snap. Like you could tell it was a little execution wise. We're not used to that this year for
Go look at
those
the
types.
line. The guys were running the wrong way. They ran into
Yeah.
each other.
And that's the
So
other.
whatever the play was clearly not communicated well, one way
Yeah,
or the other. Yeah.
exactly. That was the other part about that was like clearly there was a little helter skelter, happening there too. I wish they would have taken the time not to take a moment to compose themselves. Not to mention too, Jaden bobbles the snap and runs to the short side like that. That was also kind of a little baffling as well there.
Yeah. I mean, this goes back to this team needs a bye really badly. I mean, like it became so evident to me after the Steelers game. Like they had this crazy high of the Hail Mary. They survived that week and won in New York, but not unlike this has been a trend now. Chicago was shut out in the first half, scored 15 points in the second half. Giants game never felt like that it was going to get away from them, but they scored 2 fourth quarter touchdowns, drew second half touchdowns as well, including one late. I was handed a note last night that over the last 3 games in the fourth quarter, they've been outscored 39-11. And that includes the touchdown that was scored with 30 seconds left last night when the game was essentially over. The team needs a bye, like very badly. Let's see what the mini bye does for them, but they've needed it. And the thing that was really jarring about the Steelers game was, and I think like we tried to look at both sides of it because it was, well, they didn't execute very well. It was by far their worst level of execution kind of across the board. And they almost won anyway against a really good team. And we're kind of like trying to balance that. And last night it reared up again. There was a drive where they had a drop, they had a total miss, they had a penalty, and they punted the ball, and it cost them points. And then there at the end, when they do decide to be overly aggressive, in my opinion, a little overly aggressive for what the situation dictated, they didn't get the play in correctly, and they ran into each other. And then Jaden scrambling for his life, and unfortunately couldn't get to the edge in time. And that's an execution thing. And so it all reads to me like this team really needs a break, like a mental, physical break. And I'm hoping these few days are long enough to turn around and beat what is a beat up Dallas team. And then just get to Tennessee knowing there's a break on the other side of that. And if they do those 2 things, it is 9-4. I'm not counting any chickens though. Like this team needs a break really badly. And so the only bright side, because the setup felt so bad, was that they will have a long break and Dallas will be on a short week because they're playing on Monday night. So let's hope it adds up to some kind of win. And I don't even care. Like I said this last week, I don't care what the style points are against the Cowboys. I just hope they win. And if they win, then I'm going to feel like everything's fine again.
Not only that, it's 2 games at home. Like it's not only 2 winnable opponents, it's 2 beatable opponents, I should say. It's 2 games at home. And look, I don't care if Thursday night's at Philly or New York. You're still having to travel on a short week. Your hours are just cut, having to travel to anywhere. And that was also a factor here, I thought, this week too, that it's going to be a short week. They're tired. They also had to go on the road for this thing. And even though it's a short trip, it's still on the road. You're taking them out of their element a little bit.
Yeah, the O-line's worn down, like clearly. This is 2 weeks in a row. Brandon Coleman's been beaten off the edge a number of times. He is dealing with a shoulder injury. He's also a rookie might be catching up with him a little bit. He needs a break. Cornelius Lucas was active last night. I don't know how ready he is, but he was active last night. I am all for the rotation at left tackle again. I'm starting to get it a little bit with that. And you know what? Like if he's available, he's a veteran. You guys want to start rotating the tackles again? I am totally for that. It was nice to have Wiley back last night. I thought that was a good thing. Again, this team is willing to fight. They're willing to go in there. They're willing to do their best, but they're worn down and they need a break. Biotish has been beat up. Cosby's taken on a lot this year. Wiley missed the game I know he's active, but he missed the game last week. He was just an emergency call-up if they needed him. Alec Reddy's been kind of fighting through the whole thing. This O-line needs a break very badly. And hopefully on the other side, they could turn back around and get back to the execution they were at, because I think mentally and physically they're worn down. Just go look at that 4th down play and you'll see it. Like they are mentally and physically worn down right now.
The other side of that too is it's taking away from their personnel. Remember, Cliff was going heavy early on in the season too.
Yes.
They're putting all the tackles in there at the same time. I don't think we've seen that in a month, at least over a month, to put in a heavy personnel too.
Let's see. Jaden was off target last night. So I called it execution missed opportunities a week ago. He had some drops. He also had some misses. The Luke McCaffrey one stands out. The Olamide Zaccheaus one stands out in the second half where a drive got blown up because he had a miss there. Last night, he was off. I mean, like, he short-armed a couple throws that, could have gotten there. I mean, I need to really look at it more to understand why the receivers were basically not involved in the game last night. I mean, I know that wasn't purposeful, but Terry not getting a target until the second half and only making one catch, I think if I have that right, off of last night. And Noah Brown was targeted a couple of times. McCaffrey had one target because it was he's a third, fourth option. I don't know. Like, again, this is another one where you go, I think the season's catching up with him a little bit, that he is a rookie. I really need to watch again because the trend line to me over the last few weeks were teams that don't bring a lot of pressure, we're bringing more than they usually do. In the Eagles' case, that Jalen Carter guy is such a ridiculous monster that I think they probably don't feel like they have to do a lot of that. But I want to watch just because I don't really totally remember how many times are they bringing more than 4. And the concern for me was this is now going to become unavoidable that he's going to get hit, whether he gets rid of the ball or not. And again, he's another one, probably needs a break, had a cut on his hand, been dealing with the rib injury. Season suddenly is getting really long. Those are 2 really good defenses, 2 top 5 defenses that he faced over in a 4-day period. He needs a break too, because he had been so pinpoint accurate that it's been jarring to watch this. And last night was even more so because it wasn't just like, oh, this guy cut inside and he missed him and he threw it just a touch outside. He short-armed a couple of those throws last night. He was backing up a couple of times last night, which we hadn't seen a lot of with him. He needs a break too. It's pretty obvious.
No, and it was also where those balls were going on the inaccurate ones too. Like I think I mentioned it, it's at the first down marker, 10 yards down the field, and it's hitting dudes in the feet. Like he did that multiple times late in the game. He had one where I want to say it was deep to McCaffrey, same thing. Like had he just had it higher, McCaffrey makes a throw and it's like a gain of 20 or something like that. These were going in places we haven't seen him throw. And that's where I was kind of like, all right, this dude is so worn down. He can't step into the ball as much as he wants to. And that's what I'm with you. We were so used to the accuracy with him and so used to the placement that like watching some of those balls hit the feet of the wide receivers, that was like, oh man, this is not good right now.
Yeah. I'll reiterate what I said last week, even regardless, win or lose of this game, see you guys on Monday, maybe Wednesday. Like I think Dan Quinn will do this. He'll give him a few days off because he totally is like aware of and cognizant of the mental and physical health of the team. They've been very careful with players throughout the year and held them out at times where I think under different circumstances, he may ask them to go and put it on the line, but he hasn't done that. I think this is a total see on Wednesday situation, or maybe come in Monday, but like tell the truth could be on Zoom, guys. Like, I think they just need a break. And I think a good today, Saturday, Sunday period, and definitively open the doors on Monday for everybody to come in. But if you want to slow roll that one too, I would be all for that. This team has been into this process. They have totally been on board. It's not for a lack of desire, effort, fight, passion, all that stuff. I just think they need a break. It is so clearly obvious that they do. So give it to them. I think they've earned it. They deserve it. I know it's counterintuitive off the first losing streak of the season, but them losing these 2 games, I don't think is anything more than about this is a team that doesn't have the best roster in the NFL, that was 7-2 coming into a very tough week with a big ask, with injuries starting to kind of pile up. Give them the break. They've earned it. And that's how I kind of feel about it.
Not only that, I think we've gotten 15 minutes into the show and we haven't even mentioned they played the Steelers on Sunday, one of the most physical teams in the league, and had to turn around and play the Eagles too. Like, don't discount that. Like, we're starting to see in the NFL now, this matters when you play against physical teams, that the following week actually does matter. And not even the following week, 4 days later actually matters here too. I think that's a factor here too. We knew going into the game that they needed a little bit of a break, and they played one of the most physical teams in the league.
I am now with John Mara too. I will not sleep well because Saquon Barkley is in Philadelphia. This is going to turn out to be the move of the offseason. He has over 1,100 yards rushing in 10 games. He also had a couple big pass plays, including his longest reception of the year last night. He will surge into discussions about offensive player of the year minimum, and I think MVP at some point, because he is on that team. I know they have a lot of great players, but they leaned on him early when their offense wasn't going. He kind of kept them afloat. Then he's done crazy things like the backwards leaping over people. So he's had like highlight of the year type of thing. And the only reason why he doesn't have more touchdowns is because Hurts gets all Hurts vultures him, because they're so good with that tush push and short yardage stuff that Hurts has a lot of rushing touchdowns in the red zone. Otherwise, he would have those McCaffrey numbers from a year ago where not only would you see all the yardage, he'd have a ton of scores too, because obviously they would give it to him. He's what takes them over the top. Like, they can now run the ball 40 sometimes a game and score 30 points a game. 26 is what they landed on because of missed field goals. Otherwise, they would have scored 30. This has happened a few times now since their bye week and since they kind of changed this direction of we're going to be much more of a run-heavy team and less of the pass-heavy team. Like, there's like an avalanche hits at some point. We're not the only one to see it last night. This happened against Dallas a week ago. That was a close game with like a minute and a half left in the first half. And then all of a sudden the floodgates opened and he hits a couple of big runs and it's like everything falls apart on you. Like, you're just trying to keep it together, but you could feel the holes like being poked in the boat and you could feel it start to sink. And then he just shoots the cannonball into it and it's the Titanic. Like, I've seen this now like 3 or 4 times over the last month where at some point in time, he makes 2 or 3 huge runs and it's like you just get bulldozed by these guys. And it happened again last night, and I'm not surprised. The volume of plays they've played, how beat up they are, the fact, this is again why I think that field goal kicking there, I think would have mattered a little bit. Just mentally to look up at the clock and go, we're winning. There's 8 minutes to go. They may not have won anyway, but it's just another reason why I just think mentally you needed to stay in it for just a little bit longer. And I think that decision was a bad one. And then all of a sudden, the defense quite didn't have enough anymore. And you give that guy any space, and he kills you. And so to the Giants, I would say to you, again, I don't know if you were watching last night, but do you now know why you could have given him the extra $5,000 he asked for and not let him go there? Because he's embarrassing everybody now on that team.
To your point, too, though, to the counterpoint, it still works the other way, too. They might have gone up, and he still might have demoralized them the following drive. Like, that's the other part of this is I don't know how much it would have done for the defense. I just know, too, like, once that guy gets going, you can tell guys just do not want to touch him either. Like, I mean, that was the first time I saw with that defense. There were a couple business decisions being made with some of those guys kind of slow rolling to go over to that dude for the first time.
He's, with McCaffrey being hurt all year, he and Henry are having the best years, and he's the best running back in the NFL, which is why all along I'm like, I don't know why you take the line in the sand that they took with him. He is your best player. I firmly believe in you pay your superstars. I don't care what position they're at. Like, I don't give me this is what the market is for this position. That guy's special. Go look at what he's doing. He's going to have over 2,000 yards from scrimmage. And if he stays on this pace, he's going to have 1,800 yards rushing or more. Like, and he'd have 25 touchdowns if they didn't give it to Hurts in the red zone every single time. So he's a difference maker for that offense in a way that makes, in my opinion, them and Detroit, the front runners in the NFC. San Francisco's kind of turned this corner now. They're back over 500, so watch out. But who else do you buy other than Detroit and Philadelphia right now as one of the 2 teams that's going to end up in the Super Bowl? And for Washington, like we'll see this weekend with Pittsburgh and Baltimore, it's going to be a great game. You could make a case that they played the 2 Super Bowl teams in a 4 days period. That's possible.
No, 100%. By the way, I wish I would have talked to you yesterday. Like, did you notice it was the 2-year anniversary of them beating Philly up there for the Monday night?
Date to the day?
It was 2 years to the day that they played Philly on that Monday night game and beat them. It was 3 years to the day that they played the Bucs at home and beat Brady and the Bucs. And so I went into yesterday going, maybe November 14th is like just their day. And then into the third quarter, I was thinking the same thing. But no, then the Saquon avalanche happened, and it was pretty much over from there on. So.
Yeah, pretty brutal. All right, let's get into the rest of Week 11 next. Bray wants to show ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Let's go through the slate outside of the rough start of the week for us with a loss in Philadelphia last night to drop us to 7-4. What to do in Chicago? They get the Packers. They are team. Everyone has an answer for them. The conversation has turned in a way that I think is actually appropriate here. Clearly, Matt Eberflus is not going to be back, right? Like they're going to make a change. Like the ownership doesn't fire people in season, and at this point, it appears that they don't want to. But it is ugly in a way where if the players are indeed asking for the rookie quarterback to be benched, or they're demanding people get fired, or their body language is so off, and even their press conferences, they're like, "This sucks," So he's going to get fired whenever it happens. The next hire they make will be the most important hire they've made in a very, very, very long time, because it has to get right with Caleb Williams. Otherwise, they could ruin him. They could. And I'm not willing to throw that on Williams yet. I think this was a mistake from the get-go, that whether Eberflus deserved it or not, they needed to clean the slate, bring in a new coaching staff, likely an offensive coaching staff, with him, and let him, grow and develop with the new staff together. But they didn't do that. And because this went sideways, now all of a sudden they have to circle the wagons and get a new coach in. I've seen this before. We've seen this before. That oftentimes doesn't work. You inherit the player. The player's got a bad locker room right now. You're not going to get rid of all these guys. You have too many good players on the roster. It's going to take a magician to figure out how to get them back all on the same page. And, for the sake of, I'm rooting for this kid because he's one of us, I really hope that they get this hiring right. Otherwise, this is going to be one of the all-time promises unfulfilled careers. You can see it coming, and it's steamrolling towards it. So I just hope they get through this season now, and whoever they hire gets this kid turned around. That's what I hope.
Yeah, I'm never rooting against Caleb. I will say, though, as you know, I've become a Bears hater because of their fans this past year. And seeing just this fall apart in a way that we've seen before, but like even worse, is a little satisfying. And knowing that we were the team to break them, like they lost 3 straight games and we basically started that with the last play of the game. I have one stat for you that is the most jarring stat, though, on the Bears that I talked about earlier this week on my show. It was from the 33rd team posted this one. Out of 468 starting quarterbacks who had like a minimum of, let's call it, I think it was like 25 or 50 attempts, 15 yards or more. Do you want to take a guess at where Caleb Williams ranks in completing those passes? 15 yards or more, 468. He is the worst quarterback when it comes to 15 yards or more. I don't care who your coach is at that point. That is crazy when you think about that.
I was trying to be nice when we played them because they were so chirpy about him because they had won a couple of games. And I watched him and I'm like, God, I think the way I put it was, he looks like a rookie.
Yeah.
I was trying to be nice about it because, most rookies do look like rookies.
Sure.
Ours just doesn't. That's all. And there's no downfield passing game at all, even though they have devastating receivers, but it doesn't exist. There's not much of an intermediate game. They're not on the same page because every play is running around back there. There's no timing to anything. So it's going to take somebody to come in there and work with his unique skill set and get everybody, I think, back on the same page because this has gone completely sideways. And I assume, because seasons are long, that at some point everything will calm down and they have a very good roster and they'll probably win a couple more games, probably a few more. This weekend, I doubt it. Against Green Bay, who kind of needs it if they want to try to keep pace with Detroit. They kind of need it. So I like Green Bay, obviously. The Lions are 2 touchdown favorites against the Jaguars. I don't think the Jaguars are very good. I think their roster's better than their record, but I don't think they're very good, but that's a big number. Typically, that's for a team that totally sucks. And I don't see that here. In fact, I just watched the Jaguars 2 weeks ago to get ready for this Eagles game last night, and they were right there with Philadelphia. So they don't suck. This is emblematic of Vegas and the football world in general thinks the Lions are the best team in the NFL when you post a number like that.
Well, your boy Mac Jones is starting too, so you would think that'd make the spread go the other way because he's better than Trev. So I'm just
who's he
saying.
gonna cleat? Who's he gonna cleat on Sunday?
I have no idea. I don't know. Either way, they're starting Trev or they're starting your boy Mac Jones. I'm not surprised Vegas is going to try to run this up because it could get ugly and it could get ugly fast. And they can't come back.
What world are we in that the Lions are 14-point favorites against anybody?
Yes, that's not the world in 2024.
This is hope for everyone. I mean, literally, if this doesn't give you hope for your team, because it wasn't that long ago that nobody took them serious whatsoever, ever in my lifetime. And now they're such a juggernaut that they're a 2-touchdown favorite against a decent team. Not a bad one, a decent one.
It's also they threw 5 interceptions on the road and won last week. Like they're invincible right now.
that was ridiculous. Let's see. Vikings get a good scheduling break because they're kind of like Washington. Fast starters out of the gate. No one totally buys what the record is, but appreciates that they're better than people expected and they're pretty good. Their offense is struggling. They only scored 12 against Jacksonville last week. It's kind of turning. Everyone's taking shots at Darnold now, like, oh, it's Justin Jefferson, or, oh, I don't know. We'll see. So they catch the Titans here with a struggling offense, which means they should win. But I don't know. This is one of those, I don't think it's a blowout. I don't know, honestly. I pick Minnesota, obviously, but they don't win big. They didn't win big last week.
Who's starting at quarterback for the Titans, Bram?
Your boy.
Will Levis.
You really should get his jersey because you love him so much.
I mean, he's a meme. He's a walking meme. There's a moment every week with him. So, I'm with you. I don't know what the score is going to be, but it's a flow chart. Is Will Levis starting? Yes. Will the Titans win? No. That's what the flow chart is at this point. So that's how I'm rolling on this one.
Red Zone specials this week. Raiders, Miami. Cleveland, New Orleans. Mwah, that ought to be delicious. And Indianapolis and the Jets. That's right, Raj. You're in the Red Zone specials now. As predicted, Anthony Richardson is starting again for the Colts. Not surprised. Right thing to do. The Flacco magic wasn't going to happen again. The Colts don't have the roster that the Browns do. So he was not carrying Cleveland, but he had a lot of help around him last year, including a top 5 defense. That's not the case in Indianapolis. I knew it wasn't going to go this way again. The right thing to do is to put Richardson back out there. So get over whatever happened a couple of weeks ago. Hopefully it's a lesson learned for him too. You can't check out like that in the NFL. I know the going gets tough, but you got to stay in the fight, guy. We're going to give you one do-over for that one. Do it again. You're done. But let's do one do-over where things got really, 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 really hard. And you went, you know what? This isn't for me today. Okay. One time you get to do that. That's it. And with the Jets, I mean, I can't even believe Rodgers is still going on McAfee at this point. What is he going to say? I guess what? You start talking. Is he a cabinet pick for Trump? What is he going to talk about now?
The other side of this too was, I don't know if you saw this. I want to say it was on The Athletic or someone else. They wrote about the media on the Jets of y'all were talking about this team nonstop. And now that they're losing, why are you all quiet about this now all of a sudden? And I agree with it actually. They start losing and you guys don't want to talk about them anymore. What's up with that? That's not how we handle these things. So.
Look at their roster. Look at their team. Look at their dysfunction. Why aren't you killing them?
Right. And everybody was kind of asking that question too. By the way, just on one of your Red Zone specials there, Vegas, Miami, where is that one at?
I don't know. Where is it at?
No, I don't know. I'm just saying I want to see the planes both ways though. I don't care where it's at because that's 2 party cities coming together there.
Oh, so that's right.
I'm just saying that seems like it's a good time. I don't think the game's going to be good, but
your boy Minshew's back. That's cool.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah, why not? Last stand for McVay and the Rambos at New England. Kind of need to win this one after a little clunker against Miami at home. They better win this one. They better figure it out. Otherwise, because San Francisco is now turning that corner back around. So if they lose this one somehow, it becomes suddenly a two-team race between the Niners and the Cardinals. And I have a pretty good guess who's going to end up winning that one. So for the Rams, slow start, a lot of injuries. All of a sudden, it turned back around midseason. And then you look at the schedule, including this one, and you go, this is why they're going to get back into contention. Not so fast after that Miami game. So this one's kind of it. Just not unlike how the Bears against New England a couple weeks ago, I went, this is it. If you can't win this one, you're done, honestly. Similarly, I know it's across the country for them, and New England is competitive, but that's a way better team. And they're one that's won a lot recently. So show me what you got, McVay. Otherwise, see you in 2025.
It's not only are the Niners turning it around, they're turning it around and they have McCaffrey back. Like that's a recipe for everyone's disaster in that division. I kind of tapped out on them after they lost to Miami. They not only lost, their offense looked terrible against Miami's defense. I didn't see that coming. I think they remind me of one of those teams that are just up and down week to week. I wouldn't be surprised if they lost to New England. New England's defense has shown up multiple times this season, and if they just take the blue,
a lot. I like their defense. Like just personnel wise, I like their defense. I just don't think on offense they have enough.
I think Mayo is a smart coach, at least when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. He's just going to take whatever Miami did and implement it on his defense. I think it's going to be a close game. I think maybe Patriots win this one.
As Mike Tomlin said, Mr. Jackson comes to Pittsburgh. Because last week, when someone asked him to compare Jaden Daniels to Lamar Jackson, he said, don't do that. He's a multiple-time MVP, and we're going to see Mr. Jackson. He's Mr. Jackson to us, which I like that nickname for him. Mr. Jackson goes to Pittsburgh. This will be a very telling game. Baltimore's defense has really gone the wrong way the last few weeks. Some of my Ravens friends tell me they believe it's the worst defense they've had in a long time. We saw what Pittsburgh can do. They don't ask Russ to do a lot, but the few times they do ask him to step up and make a big play down the field, it's happening over and over and over. Tough physical run defense. I think this is an old school. They've done a lot of these between these two. This is an old schooly fist fight, 20-17. If Lamar makes a crazy play, then maybe it opens up a little bit more than I expected to. But I anticipated defensive battle certainly from Pittsburgh. We'll see if Baltimore can hold up here against, now that Russ kind of has those outside the number deep throws going. They're tough to stop, actually.
No, I'm with you on this one. I think Pittsburgh could sneak away with this one, 20-17, 23-20, mainly because I also look at Baltimore's defense. Yeah, you can go down 21-7 against the Bengals and come back. You're not going down 21-7 to that team and coming back, most likely, with that defense. I don't think
so. I buy Jackson and Henry and those guys. I do. Sure. I just think, like, actually defensively doesn't look good right now for Baltimore. Yeah. It doesn't. Great. All right, so we'll see. Bo versus Kirk. Who will like that? Is Bo Newkirk? Oh. You like that take. You like that take.
Both nerdy white dudes, yeah.
Yeah. Shawnee P wants Bo to put up one big, huge number so he can go, my guy's the rookie of the year. He's dying to say that. The guy who really should be in the race, actually, with Jaden for it is Brock Bowers, and nobody's talking about it.
Agreed.
The guy's having a ridiculous rookie season. Like, he's going to break rookie records for tight ends, and nobody's talking about it because his team stinks. Bo versus Kirk. Who will like that? I like Denver here. This is in Denver. Atlanta, I call them window dressing. Let's see it, because like that team's extremely competitive. I don't think they're necessarily good, but this is Kirk, Falcons. If you guys are for real, you'll go there and win this game. And I don't know if they're ready for that. I like Denver this weekend.
I think Atlanta, they went sideways last week, right? They lost last week.
They lost to the Saints.
They're a coin flip, so I think the coin flips the other way. They win. That's just my logic on this one. I don't think they're consistent, so they lost last week. It means they'll win this week.
If Bo gets a late game winning drive and yells, "You like that?" Please,
that'd be amazing.
Don't look now. Niners are over 500 again, playing Seattle. Not unlike with the Rams, this feels a little last stand Seattle. Like they're. I thought they'd be better on defense with this coaching staff because that's why they hired them. And it hasn't necessarily been the case with them. Gino's erratic It's back and forth. They have good offensive weapons, but it's too erratic for my liking. Early in the year, he was leading the league in passing. Obviously, I like the Niners. They're a much more known quantity. I don't buy Seattle. That ship has been going like this for a little while now. So I'll take the Niners here to continue to get back on track. And if they win, they're 2 games over 500. So everything's back on the table for them again.
No, I'll take the Niners here too. This is where we kind of knew that if they were healthy, they were going to start to take over the schedule. I think you got to go Niners here. And Seattle, by the way, like we haven't heard anything about our boy Howell out there. He must not be practicing that well. That they're not even giving him a sniff over Geno at this point. So yeah, give me the Niners.
We'll get to the other 4:00 game in a minute. The night game on Sunday is Cincinnati and the Chargers, and I think this is going to be Harbs' little wake-up call. I like Burrow and company who've been there, done that. They've been totally fine over the last few weeks. Burrow, if he had a better record, would be in the MVP conversations because he is lighting it up now. And their defense just isn't good enough, and their run game probably isn't good enough, and they're losing close games. I don't think the Chargers score enough to actually win this. So I actually really like Cincinnati this weekend. In fact, they're the ones I kind of like the most. This is kind of overdue. I don't think Burrow loses again. I think they knock off the Chargers.
I feel the complete opposite. I feel like the Bengals have been the one that we've been waiting to win one of these big games. I think it's going to be the Chargers to finally just knockout punch them for the rest of the year.
Oh.
Herbert looks like he's happy now, like showing a little emotion. I think this is a low scoring game and Harbs pulls it off. So I disagree. I'm on the opposite side of you. I think the Chargers win this one.
I will bet you a pair of khakis on this one.
I switched to coffee instead. I'd rather have that than a pair of khakis.
All right. And the last one, of course, next chapter, showdown, Kansas City, Buffalo. I wasn't sure that was going to be this way this year because Buffalo was in a reset year. But as it turns out, they reset and they're totally fine and maybe better than they were a year ago. Everyone is picking them because it's there, and everyone looks at Kansas City. I saw the best stat I saw was the Saints, because of their first couple of games, have led more through this point in the season in games than the Chiefs have, even though the Chiefs are undefeated. Eventually, they have to lose, but I will just say this, and, until they lose, I will not be picking against them because why would you? I don't care that they're not doing it in the way that you think they should be doing it. They are doing it every single week. They've had big injuries. Pacheco is out for a month. Rashee Rice has been out. Kelsey's, I don't know where he's been, but he's turning the corner again, and they always get better now. Andy Reid always gets better now. They turn the corner now. They're going to get better. So until they lose, I am not going to fall into the trap of picking against them. I will say, though, I won't be surprised for a second if Buffalo knocks them off, but count me into the people who goes, until they lose, I don't even want to hear it about picking against them.
No, 100%. They're also not only just winning, they're winning like the magical ways now. Like they block a field goal last week and they stay undefeated like that. Like it's getting to the point where it's like, who has the black magic on the Chiefs now all of a sudden with them winning like this? Also, it's starting to. Last week, Kelsey scored. Like they're going to start going in a way that we haven't seen all season long. Oh, and they're just messing around with an undefeated record. Yeah, I'm not picking against the Chiefs either until they actually lose.
Not till they lose. All right. Spirit Spotlight is next as we have a huge match tomorrow. The NWSL semifinals, Spirit and Gotham. We'll give you a preview of that next. Bram Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.